Welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell, where we will explore the challenges of businesses moving from a face-to-face training mode to an online training environment. Many businesses have been caught off guard by the COVID-19 pandemic, but the situation is proving to be a catalyst for new possibilities and opportunities for the training industry. Let me and my guests help you make the most of these opportunities and to navigate the transition so that you and your organisation come out stronger and more resilient than when you went in. Education is the answer and you are the leader. Hello and welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast. Today we're going to be interviewing one of our clients, Richard, who has we've been working with him for a number of years now, him and his team, and going through what have you been doing during COVID and what changes have happened within your organisation. So Richard, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well, I'm Richard Finlayson, and I am the Managing Director of Quality Training and Hospitality College. We, by our name, by definition, we specialise in hospitality training. We have campuses in Adelaide, South Australia, and in New South Wales and Sydney. And we also train in regional areas in both Adelaide, both South Australia and in New South Wales. We train from entry level, from 1.5 day RSA sessions up to 2.5 year advanced diploma courses, qualifications in hospitality management. We specialise in cookery. We have our own kitchen, purpose-built kitchen in Darling Harbour in Sydney, complete with chef's table, where our students put on mini degustation menus on a weekly basis for clients as part of their training. And I also operate Hospitality Jobs Australia, which complements our business. I've been doing this for 26 years, so pretty much half my life running the college, and we're also heavily involved in the hospitality industry, and we run the catering operation at Adelaide Zoo.
Yeah, lots of different types of areas, but mainly in hospitality. So in 26 years, have you ever experienced anything like COVID-19 and the impacts that it's had on businesses?
The short answer is no. Having said that, in 26 years, there have been some pretty significant ups and downs, sometimes due to government policies on visas if it's overseas students. It could be government policies on funding. So we definitely have had a roller coaster ride, but this has been the biggest dip in the roller coaster that I've ever seen, and certainly the biggest challenges that we as a company have ever faced, and I think we as an industry have ever faced.
And so what has been your biggest challenge during this period?
Biggest challenge has been two things, if you like. I know you asked for one, but they go hand in hand. Number one is student placement. So being in hospitality industry, the placement is a very, very vital part of their training. They learn so much on the job when they're placed. It also gives them an opportunity often to get some additional revenue. And when the restrictions came in, obviously placements were all put on hold. And the second part of that coin is student engagement. So like most places around the world, we had restrictions. We couldn't at some stage have the normal face-to-face classes that we've been doing for the last 26 years. So that made a massive change in our student engagement.
And so what were the hurdles that you faced? So you've gone through a couple of them, and I know for one, with the international students, one thing that you'd identified was that they weren't even able to feed themselves because they didn't have any jobs, and I know you applied an initiative there. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, a bit of a shout out to the federal government. So this federal government came up with the JobKeeper program, and our business at the zoo, we have a large number of staff that have been with us a long time, so they were eligible for JobKeeper. The zoo was closed, obviously, like the rest of Australia at the time, and rather than stay at home, we offered the staff the ability through JobKeeper to come into the zoo and provide meals for our students. So we had a team of chefs that turned up every day at the zoo. Loved every second of it. It was all voluntary, but we had every single one opted in, and they provided meals up to 500 and something meals every week for our students. And our students would turn up with their face masks and bags and collect the free meals, and would have quality made meals every week, which just was a little helping hand. And it was probably a combined thing with, as I say, the federal government's initiative, with the staff at the zoo volunteering, and some of our suppliers got on board as well and gave us some free food. So I think it was really great for them in terms of something to assist them, but also just the camaraderie and the feeling that people out there cared about them. And it's not just us as a college, but the general population.
Yeah, and it would have been difficult even watching them having to go through all of this and losing their jobs. Like, you had so many international students as well as domestic who didn't have work, and being international students and not having permanent they weren't eligible for JobKeeper. So just having food on the table would make a massive difference. So what other hurdles did you face, and how did you overcome those?
So once again, we mentioned student placement. So a large part of our programs, with regards to that, we adjusted all our timetables. So we brought the theory training forward, and we put the placements, obviously, suspended the placements. So that was the beginning of the adjustment. We, late last year, nothing to do with COVID, I'm no clairvoyant, we went down the pathway of developing an online platform and developing state-of-the-art hospitality resources for a range of reasons. More productive, more engagement. We didn't feel that anything on the market quite fit the bill. So we're very fortunate that project was due to complete in July, but we managed to bring it forward and throw resources at it. So we had that platform up and running by early May, which coincided with the lockdown and then the move to online learning. Our trainers did an amazing job transferring to Zoom lectures, backed up with this fantastic state-of-the-art online platform. In the other side of the coin was mental health, and our trainers, our support people, phoned every student that we had once a week just to see how they were going, to see what assistance they could offer. We, like many colleges throughout Australia, suspended some of their payments, came up with payment plans and discounts, and we just really tried to assist them as best we could. So I think a combination of a bit of innovation and a bit of just humanity to assist with us transitioning, but also with the students, obviously, more importantly, transitioning to the online platform. We put in some rules around it. For example, our students had to wear uniforms. So I think psychologists will tell you that, during these times, it's great to still stay in some kind of routine. So they'd get up in the morning and put the uniform, or at least the top half. We don't know what happened underneath the table, but they wore their shirts and ties and so on. And the engagement was just incredibly good.
Yeah, that's great. I know for me, still getting up in the morning and getting dressed for work is very important, and it's keeping that routine. So what a great idea with bringing that along with the students as well. And so, what were the issues that came up with did you have any issues with the transition to online with your students?
Yeah, the short answer is, it was smoother than I thought, but it wasn't 100% smooth. We had a few students claiming internet issues, rightly or wrongly. Sometimes it coincided with the students whose attendance prior to COVID wasn't the best, but, it is what it is. And also, technology. We have our trainers. The longevity of our training staff is amazing. In fact, we've got a 7-Up club, and there's 11 of them celebrating being with us more than 7 years in October of this year. We're having a special dinner for them. So doing the normal face-to-face and transferring that skill to online Zoom classes took a bit, but to be fair, the trainers transitioned incredibly well. Similarly with the students, initially we had one student, obviously remain nameless, who had pre-recorded himself, so he wasn't actually on the Zoom session. He was looking like he was on the Zoom session, and we there was little things like that. But overall, it was incredibly well done on behalf of the trainers, and very well received on behalf of the students. So much so, I think when the world is better, getting them to come back to class on a daily basis is going to be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it would be, I say, because they do get used to that. It's changing the routine again if you do go back to classrooms and when you do. Okay, so what has been your biggest achievement through this? What are you most proud of?
I think through everything, it probably was. I mean, we audit our student body on halfway through every term, and our last audit, we had 98% of our students would recommend us to family and friends, and one of the two that didn't recommend us, the reason was that we made them to attend study, albeit online. So I was quite happy with that response. So just the fact that our students have embraced the changes, have understood it, and despite the fact it's not the perfect learning environment, have thrived amongst it. And equally to that, as I say, we suspended our placements, and then in late July, we had to place 105 students, and our placement team managed to achieve that. And I just think that's an incredible effort. I was very worried that, a large number wouldn't be able to be placed, especially winter in Australia, but they managed to place every single student. So I think they're the probably, I'm giving you two answers every time for what you ask for one, but they're the two things that really stand out that, the staff and students have achieved together through this pandemic.
Yeah, and so being in South Australia, I'll just clarify this for our listeners, you're able to have your students go back into the workforce, which is awesome.
Yes, we call ourselves the code-free state in South Australia. We have been largely untouched. I mean, at the beginning, it was looking quite significant, but the government, once again, has done a great job. And the restrictions really didn't last that long. The openings started, I think, in probably mid-May and expanded since then. And now it's almost back to normal. There's some restrictions, but nothing too major. And most businesses are working at about 60-70% capacity. And New South Wales as well are the middle for staff and students, which is fantastic from our perspective.
Yeah, New South Wales are a little bit further behind, and we have had a number of instances in the CBD. How has that impacted on your students in Sydney?
Yeah, good question. So it's very different. Both states are different and in every way, but from I think mid-May, early June onwards, we offered students the ability to come back to theory classes face-to-face, albeit adhering to the guidelines. We had to have the physical distancing. We did the temperature checks, et cetera, physical distancing. And we had about 40% of our students in Adelaide elect to come back to face-to-face classes, but I think nobody in New South Wales went back. And that's a combination of things. Number one is obviously geographically New South Wales, Sydney's spread out more. Public transport isn't and probably will remain an issue for a period of time. That, obviously that's an environment where you feel more under threat for the virus. I think those two main reasons, people in Sydney were more reluctant to attend the classes face-to-face, where in Adelaide, the response has been about 40 to 50% that have returned to the face-to-face classes. So there is and remains a higher degree of not suspicion but threat in New South Wales and anxiety. And even our placement people, we in New South Wales and Sydney, the placements are monitored via the phone and that sort of thing. My placement people don't go door to door because, as you know, there's been some clusters and it just increases the risk to them, which then increases the risk to the family and the students. Where in South Australia, we go and we monitor at the work site the placements.
Yeah, and you've got trainees as well?
Got trainees and apprentices, and those, once again, there are the occasions where we need to go and do some observations, so that still happens, but it's just more, we kind of cluster in observations, if that makes sense. So we have two slightly different rules for the two different states based on where the virus currently sits in the different states.
Where they're at, yeah. Okay. So we've heard of a few strategies that you've put in place to overcome the issues around COVID. What strategies have you put in place moving forward, looking 6 to 12 months' time?
So a couple of things. Blended learning is here to stay. I mean, we've always had some form of blended learning. So the online Zoom sessions, for example, I can have a trainer in Adelaide standing in front of a class and have people in Sydney and in regional New South Wales Zoom into that class and then use the online platform to back that up. I can have someone, and this is happening currently in the Philippines or Korea, who is, they're watching an online session and backed up with the online platform. So that is here to stay. At this stage, our face-to-face cookery training is here to stay. I have heard of some colleges doing online cookery. I'm not sure how that necessarily works for them. With someone with a lifetime of experience in the industry, I can't see how you can fulfill everything online when it comes to practical. So for the time being, we'll maintain the face-to-face cookery training. And further enhance our online platform capability. But so the business is changed and there's been some major improvements. There's no doubt about that. But we will always look to maintain some kind of face-to-face certainly when it comes to the practical skills. And looking at delivering probably more online offshore as well. That's in our that's in
strategy.
Our strategy, yeah.
Yeah. So moving forward, you're focused on having a blended delivery method with online. It sounds like you've also opened up new opportunities for in particular your international market and being able to deliver online.
Yeah, 100%. There are, in any crisis, there's always opportunity, and we are exploring a range of different potential partnerships whereby one pathway is to deliver online and then for our trainers to go out and do the practical gap training and assessing. Another one is to deliver online and then for the student to come across and do intensive practical training. 3 is to deliver online but have it non-accredited so they get all the background information. So yes, there are, without question, opportunities that have arisen and that we are pursuing.
Yeah, awesome. Has there been any other opportunities that you've identified for your business as well, moving into the future?
Yeah, 2 things. Now, number one, I think when the recovery comes, I think the industry will be busier than ever, certainly through the international market. There are a lot of students that have wanted to come over the last 6 or so months that haven't been able to, and the large majority of them will still want to come. There are the students that, the general flow of students that would come, and then there are more students that I believe will want to come to Australia because it has been seen to be one of the world leaders in handling this crisis, and we are looking to expand our offering and build some more purpose-built kitchens, because the one in Sydney has worked so well. So we definitely see that as opportunity moving forward. In the meantime, we have, I'll say transition because I hate the word pivoted, but transition back a bit more focus into the domestic market. We've always had a strong footprint domestically, and have got a lot of great staff. And rather than them sitting around twiddling their thumbs, we're moving back to a lot more domestic training. Obviously, there are initiatives like Job Trainer that will be launched soon, and different states are increasing funding for students. So, in the midterm, I think there'll be a transition back to more domestic training. But then in the midterm, once the world is good again, I think that good colleges in Australia will be busier than ever before.
And it will be the quality RTOs who will survive through this. This is something I have certainly seen. And you've even got quality in your name. So you're definitely a quality RTO. What opportunities do you see with Job Trainer, and the fact that with Job Trainer they are focused on skill sets and delivering, sets of units that are going to be specific to industry?
Oh, that makes sense. I think most RTOs would look at a qualification, be it Cert 3 in cookery or hospitality, sort of being parochial to my own industry, and look at certain aspects of that and say that isn't really necessary in order to get a job and or maintain a job. Whereas hopefully Job Trainer gives us the opportunity to work with industry to say, hygiene, yes, health and safety, yes, basic methods, yes, and maybe one or two of the other units not as essential, and come up with something that gets them skilled enough to get into the workplace, and then certainly pursue with the credits that come with that, other opportunities like apprenticeships or traineeships or further training. So, in theory, the program makes an enormous amount of sense, and I think most RTOs and industry support the concept. When you have bureaucracy, sometimes it doesn't always end up like that, and we also, being an RTO that is in different states, can see very different approaches to things amongst the different states. Some very successful, and it's in 27 years I've always scratched my head and said, when a state does something really well, why does the other states not follow or copy them?
Or use that model?
Why do they seem to go the opposite way? But anyway, that's something that we all contend with, and I think most multi-state RTOs would hopefully agree that if it was a one model that worked, let's just replicate that. But anyway, in theory, it's great and can only be a positive thing. So we're definitely looking forward to that, and getting more Australians back into work as well.
Yeah, well, watch this space, because with the changes to the standards and micro-credentialing and where we're going into the future, I think you may get that wish. But, we'll always have, different cultures in different states, and it will be, like even when we went from state regulatory body to the national regulatory body to ASQA, we still had issues in the individual states with the teams that were in the individual states. But hopefully this is the problem they're trying to solve with the new standards that they're going to be bringing in. So I think I definitely will be getting involved with providing feedback on the new standards, and I'm sure you will too, Richard.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
You're not one to stand down and not be vocal. And I know, and talking about that, this year, not only did you have to go through COVID and everything that we've been going through, you also went through an ASQA audit, and I know because I worked with you on that, it wasn't an easy audit as well. How did that, having the audit process whilst you're going through this, how did that impact you and your team?
It wasn't ideal, if I can start with that. And I think how can I say this tactfully? I think ASCO would agree that the methodology was difficult for both parties when you're phoning in and on difficult phone lines and trying to receive feedback. But having said all that, we learned a fair bit. We improved because of the audit, and there's a lot of positives we can take from it. We're still moving upwards and onwards, and whilst we looked at some of the issues that were raised and the thought in this COVID world that they probably didn't really mention, there are other things that we looked at and thought, yeah, we can do better job. And we've built a virtual business to supplement our management training and assessing. We've got a quarterly schedule where all our trainers get together. So whilst the process was tricky, I think the results are good and positive moving forward. And it's it did add a layer of stress, and certainly the 4 days of discussion.
Audit. You had a 4-day audit.
4-day audit via the phone, which is not even via Zoom, which is tricky. But as I say, that's behind us. We have our full registration, if you like, and we can move forward positively, having learned some really good positive things to take forward.
Yeah, and a good attitude to have to go with it, but not the strain you need on top of everything else. It's hard enough running an RTO from day-to-day operations, never mind when you've got COVID and an audit at the same time. So well done on that. And it was an excellent outcome in the end. And one of the things that you did identify in the audit was the benchmarking and the issues around assessments. And I think that is also going to be one of the things that are going to be resolved with micro-credentialing and the new the new training model that they're going to be coming up with. So I think I know you guys are delivering really good quality education and have a great team. So well done.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for your help and your team's help during the process.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. So how do you keep motivated each day?
I think it's very easy. I think every person that's involved in an RTO will say the same thing. Student success. We are helping students change their lives, achieving their goals. There's not a day that goes by that we don't see the proof of that, where somebody might have come from a foreign country and studied in Australia and taken amazing skills back to that country. Or they might have chosen to stay here and had an employer that was desperate to keep them, or someone that's been unemployed for 10 years who gets a job and, all over their Facebook page, it's changed their lives, or a parent, a family member of someone that we've trained that contacts us and is so thankful. That's what keeps us going. And I say us, I think us as an organization, our trainers, and certainly us as an industry, that whilst the ASPO audits and bureaucracy and changes to government funding and policies are a burden, when as happened this week already, you see a student who's completed their qualification and got a job or a better job, it really it's not hard to get motivated, it keeps everybody going, and we don't ring a bell and celebrate when we win a contract. Maybe we should, but we certainly celebrate when one of our students achieves something that they're desperate to achieve and it changes their lives.
It sounds like it's your why as well.
Oh, without question, that's it's why all of us exist, and during the dark times, and there can be dark times, you just flick maybe back on your Facebook page and see some of the stories that our guys have posted, and it just really keeps you going and makes the whole industry worthwhile. And I'd say that to all RTOs out there who experience the same thing we do. I don't think there's an RTO in Australia that hasn't had frustrations and issues. but equally there's not a good RTO in Australia that haven't helped impact someone's life incredibly positively.
It is my why as well. It's why I'm in this industry, and I saw it as a trainer and the impact that you have on students' lives, and then I saw it as running my own RTO, and this is the brilliant thing now as we get to see it through our clients. And we also had the opportunity to attend one of your graduations at the beginning of this year before we all went into lockdown. And it was awesome. It's so good. I had a chat to some of your students as well while I was there, and hearing their stories and what they've achieved, and seeing how proud they are of themselves. It is an incredible feeling, but also results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We put a lot of effort into our graduations because, it's a celebration of what they've achieved, we certainly, and that's the other great thing that looks like, we can in some format have some good graduations moving forward again, which is really good.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Richard, for being on Education in Isolation. It's been great having a chat with you, as always. I'm looking forward to when I can visit you in Adelaide again. It seems like it's been a long time since I've been travelled interstate, so it'll be really good to catch up with you again.
No problems, and vice versa. Hopefully the borders will be open to New South Wales very soon, and I can pay a visit and catch up with yourself and the team in the quality team in New South Wales.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Angela.
You've been listening to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell. Do you know someone else who could benefit from learning about opportunities and strategies to provide training online? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app, email, or social media channels. Each share helps us reach listeners just like you who can benefit from our content. The Education in Isolation podcast is proud to be part of the Experts on Air podcast network.